Okay, so this is my DeMorgan's circuit using NOR gates. It's turned off right now, so that's why none of the LEDs are on. But basically, everything on this side of the first switch is our clock from a couple labs ago. And then the wiring for this LED and some of these resistors and the switch here, and how these two are connected, is the same as from the last lab. So what's new is these two chips over here and how they're connected to everything else. So basically the point of this circuit is to demonstrate that this LED, which is hooked up just to a NOR gate, acts the same as this LED, which is hooked up to an AND gate that ANDs together two NORs, and that demonstrates DeMorgan's law. So how it's wired up here is we have, for this one LED here, it's the NOR of switch 1 and the clock. So basically when switch 1 is off and the clock is off, so since the clock is alternating between 0 and 1, when it's at that 0 point, this will be on. So what we're going to see, or what we should see, is a flashing on and off, but sort of opposite what this is. So when this is on, this is off, and when this is off, this one flashes on. So then for this LED, we have, we NOR the clock here. This is just the clock, gets wired in twice, so it just becomes basically a knot of if you NOR the same thing, it becomes it's like an inverter. And then this one we are NORing switch 1, just with switch 1, so then that is basically like inverting switch 1. So we have not the clock and not switch 1, and then we AND them together over here, and that goes to this LED. So basically we end up with the same thing, where it's going to flash on and off, but opposite how this one. So these two should flash at the same time, and this one will be flashing with the clock, opposite these two. This one should be off, except when we push switch 1, as we saw in the last lab. So I'm going to turn it on now, and we'll see that it behaves the way we would expect it to. Okay, so we see this one flashing with the clock, and these two flashing opposite the clock, and then this one turns on with switch 1. We also see that these two turn off when switch 1 is on, because here we saw that it was not switch 1 and not the clock. So when switch 1 is on, this one's off, and for this one it was a NOR of the clock and switch 1, so that ends up being on only when they're both off.